Hmm. There's so much interesting stuff here. So when we're looking at this, Dr. Ross, like, could you maybe talk through like an example here when you talk about this 1% that can't be explained like naturalistically? Like, can you give like a specific example here to kind of flesh this out of like showing like what this phenomena is?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the only scientist who's written on this phenomena. I know of 6 physicists who've devoted at least 10 years to researching the UFO phenomena and have written books on the subject. Probably the one that was the earliest was the astronomer Alan Hynek. He was commissioned by the government to study this phenomena. And so he documented many of these non physical and real incidents. The one who's done the most documentation on this is the French astrophysicist Jacques Vallée. He's still researching this and writing about this. And, you know, I think I'm the only Christian in the group. But what you hear from Jacques Vallée, for example, is he says we're dealing with something interdimensional. He documents how it violates the laws of physics. He says we're dealing with phenomena that's coming from dimensions beyond the universe. And of course, that would well describe the angelic realm. And it was Alan Hynek that coined the term close encounters. Close encounters of the first kind, which means a human gets within 500 feet of the UFO incident. Then he talked about the second kind, third kind, and now they talk about the fourth kind. Close encounter of the fourth kind is when the human contactee gets killed. The third kind is when there's actual communication going on between the so called UFO being and the human contactee. But we document in our book, Lights in the Sky and Little Green Men, the only people that have these close encounters are people with open doors to the occult or witchcraft or demonic activity. And we basically close the book off by saying, if you'll repudiate these experiences, that will be the end of your UFO encounters, at least the 1% of residual. And so we say our hypothesis is testable. And it's testable another way. What we notice is certain parts of the world, you see a much greater incidence of these encounters. So, like France, equatorial Brazil, and Russia. I was in Russia in the late 1980s and early 1990s speaking on this subject and discovered that about 10 times as many Russians per capita were having these experiences compared to Americans. There was also an era when the Soviet government was sponsoring research in occult physics. So, especially among the scientists, I encountered a lot of people that had these close encounters. And they were the ones that were able to document to me phenomena that were clearly real, but not physical. What's interesting in Russia today, the number of incidences have plummeted. And that's because there's a significant drop in the proportion of the population involved in the occult. And to a lesser degree, we see the same correlation here in the United States. When I speak on these subjects in Hawaii and Alaska, for example, I run into a lot more people that have had these encounters than when I speak, for example, in Massachusetts or Texas. But as well known, a larger percentage of Hawaiians and Alaskans are involved in the occult. So,
Hmm.
and what's interesting when I look at these other physicists who are not Christians, they agree with me that there's a one-to-one correlation between what we see in this 1% UFO residual and what we see in witchcraft and demonology and the occult.